you have discovered through the expansion of the internet world. I am Johnny Allen, and this is the Johnny Allen 30-Minute Podcast. We're going to be talking about your life, my life, and the world today. So sit back, relax, grab something if you need it, and let's do this. Hey guys, welcome. The podcast starts now. I am Johnny Allen of the Johnny Allen 30-Minute Podcast. How y'all doing out there today? Well, I'm doing pretty good. It's 2024. And things change, as we get older and life goes on and events happen and all this good jazz. So in case you're new here, I'm just an average guy talking about the world events a little bit, talking about my life. I share things I experience, family, friends, hanging out together on holidays. I really talk about just about anything that happens in their everyday life. That's me. So, and we got a new platform. I've been doing this for a couple years now, but welcome y'all that are checking in on Rumble. Thanks again for checking me out on Rumble. Wanted to go to Rumble for a while, just haven't done it. Been busy with various things, but here we are. So welcome to, welcome y'all that are tuning in on Rumble, I should say. So anyway, again, I'm Johnny Allen. Just talk about 30 minutes of everyday life stuff. So first of all, in case you're new, I can always get started with a cup of coffee. I got to drink coffee on the podcast. It's just kind of nice. It's kind of like, when you go to a coffee shop and you invite a friend or something like that, or you're sitting around a breakfast table and you're drinking coffee and you're discussing things. That's kind of what we do. That's what we do here. So today, I share usually what kind of coffee I'm drinking. So anyway, let's take a sip to the new year coming in. Cheers. Pretty good coffee. Today, guys, I went to Michigan earlier, really spring of last year now, 2023. It seems weird to say last year. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but I bought Michigan Signature coffee from up there at Petoskey, Michigan. And I actually stayed at the Bayville View. I said Ville again. It's View. Okay. It's been a long week. I'll get into it. Brew. Anyway, it's from Stafford's. They're kind of common up there, but anyway, it's from Michigan. Pretty good coffee. It's actually from it's a roasting company up there in Glen Arbor, Michigan. So if you guys are interested, I'll put the link down below. Anyway, let's get this going. So I actually, like I said, welcome to 2024. All right. Thanks for stopping in. I checked, first of all, kind of reviewing my new year and holidays. It was good. Real quickly. It was real nice. Had a stepson from New Jersey come in, hang out, grandson from New Jersey, his son. They both hung out with us for about four and a half days. I transformed half of the studio into a O-gauge train layout, which I'll do that next podcast. I'm going to kind of just go over the train layout. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and, we finally got it out there. Revamped the studio. They came and they stayed here with us, the relatives, the stepson. It was a real nice time. Spent some time with my kids, all the grandkids, just family. Spent time with all of them. And it's kind of funny because it started like the week before Christmas. I had to go, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. I went and spent time with my parents. That sounded bad, but I love my parents. Had to drive a little bit is what I was trying to say, and spend time with my parents. We saw Mannheimer Steamroller, pretty good Christmas outfit. Been around for a long time. First time I ever seen them live. They were great. But we celebrated Christmas with my folks, my brother. Then we split it up and did Christmas with my stepsons, my wife's boys, and grandson, and then my son and his son, which is my other grandson. So, and then last but not least, we spent Christmas with my daughter and grandson and granddaughter and her husband. So we just split it up, but it worked out great. And in the meantime, I finished up a new song because I'm a singer-songwriter, because you guys don't know, and played in various bands throughout the years, and I'll get into that maybe later. But anyway, I wrote an original song called My Friend Song, and I'll put the link below. You guys want to check it out. It's a heartfelt song. It's about folks that have passed away, and it's a tribute to my close friends and family that have passed away the last 6-7 years or whatever. Lost a lot of people, especially since COVID. So I dedicated this song to all of them. And it's kind of like their trip. But if you get a chance, and their story. So if you get a chance, just check it out. My Friend's Song. It's 3 minutes and 40 minutes. 3 minutes and 40 seconds long. I think we need some more coffee. It's been a little while since I've done the podcast. It's been kind of a rough week for me, guys, to be honest with you. But we'll get it going. I had just kind of on a personal note, the reason why I'm kind of dragging still, I had a colonoscopy the day before last. This is Thursday night. I had a colonoscopy on Wednesday. So actually this is Friday. So yeah, 2 days ago now, I guess. But wow, never had anything like that done before. As far as we know, everything's okay. It's just that anesthesia I've never been under, and it was great. It was great sleep. And it was a great high when I woke up. I felt really good, but just kind of dragged you down a little bit. So anyway, we're getting going here. I want to talk about, first of all, my main talking point tonight is I want to talk about the world events and since we're into 2024, how things are kind of ramping up on the world stage. I'm not a fear monger or anything like that. I don't want to spread fear. I'm not into that. I'm into just being a realist and enjoying life and all that good stuff, right? And some things we can control, some things we can't. Most of the things we can't control, right? So with that being said, I follow a couple of podcasters real closely, YouTube guys, actually. YouTube. One of them, as I've mentioned many times before, Sean James from My Self-Reliancy. He lives in Canada. He's just started a podcast, and it's been very interesting. He just had a guest on his last one that he just posted, I think is actually today or yesterday. I think it was on Thursday he posted it. But anyway, he interviewed a guy that does that's a prepper. And not a pepper, not a Dr. Pepper, but a prepper. Okay. In case you guys don't know what prepping is basically trying to gather food and water and supplies, emergency supplies, and build up your storage and all that in case everything falls out of the bottom of the society and we lose electricity, you lose, the foods, shortages and all this stuff. So I won't get into all that because my podcast is not a prepping podcast. But what I'm getting at is I watched that today and they were discussing all this stuff. Sean had this guy that's a prepper from Canada. I believe he's called the Canadian prepper, I think. But anyway, first time I ever heard him, and he was very interesting and very intriguing. And I've heard a lot of stories like this, before from various social media people. And some of it I'll listen to and think, I don't know. And then some of it really makes sense. And this one made sense, this interview. And if I get a chance, I'll put the link below to share Sean's interview with this young man. I don't know his name off the top. Forgive me for that, but I'll link it so you guys can watch it. But what I'm getting at is my wife and I have been talking about that because, we remember COVID like it was yesterday, right? And now they're saying there's another variant. And it's just, and I worked in healthcare, and I'm not going to bore you with all that. And I worked through all that stuff. That's why I'm retired now because to be quite frank, it just wore me out. I was severely burnt out, had to take some time off. So I did. That's what I'm doing now. I've been out of the healthcare, working actually for almost a year and 18 months. I haven't worked a full-time job in 18 months. I've done some various little things, but not full-time. But the pandemic, getting back to that really awoke a lot of people, right, all over the world. We were not used to that. happening, and me being one of them. Never lived through anything like that. So as 2024 is here and time keeps pushing forward, things are changing drastically. You can look at the world events, what's happening in Israel, Gaza, Ukraine's been going on for now, a year and a half now. There's a lot of different wars going on. Those are the two main ones. And as we speak, it seems like Iran's dragging the U.S. into war. It's just going to cause a lot of problems. I've said this so many times, I wish everybody would just put on their peace hats or smoke a peace pipe like the American Indians did, and just, come to the reality that, you're not going to solve anything with a bunch of violence and destroying each other and all that. So another podcast, but you can't solve the world's problems that way. You're going to create more problems. So as time is pushing forward, we are creating more problems. We as the society in general, the whole society is creating more problems. So where does that come into being a prepper? Well, like I said, if a major thing happened, no one's going to survive it, nuclear or whatever. But it's kind of good. I've come to, actually the conclusion of this after watching these guys talk about what to do and how to prepare. I've come to the conclusion that I'm not going to be an extremist. I'm not going to go overboard, but I'm just going to get enough stuff to keep us in case something would happen for like a month or two. Okay. And in case things got really rocky, and then hopefully everything, supply chain and stuff would basically settle down in a month or two. Because I remember when COVID first came out, 2020, early 2020, you remember the old toilet paper craze, everybody bombarded and tore up the toilet paper. Could not figure out what that was all about. I still don't. But for some reason, they wanted the toilet paper. And I remember the stores were chaotic and all that. So if you have enough supply to where you don't have to worry about that for, a month or two, you're gonna worry less. You're gonna be less stressed out. You're gonna like, hey, I don't even have to leave the house. Screw it. Going to the store. I don't need to go to the store for a while. Whatever. And anyway, I thought it was very interesting listening to these preppers. So comment below if you have any comments whatsoever on any of this stuff I'm talking about. 2024 coming in. So I know it's a very good coffee. Or what's going to happen in 2024. It's here. Another thing too is I have a birthday coming up, a big one. I'll be the big 60 the end of next month. February 28th is my birthday. It's hard to believe. But I've seen a lot happen, and throughout the years, some good, some bad. My life in general has been pretty good. There's been bumps in the road, of course, like everybody else. But we know it can all change like that, right? It could change in an instant. And so I think the prepping thing, as far as getting a few supplies set aside, I told my wife, I said, we're fortunate enough to have a nice retention pond behind our house. So there's water for at least a while. I have a fireplace that I have quite a bit of wood. So there's heat and a means to cook, right? This is the worst case scenario. If the lights go out, I got plenty of candles. I got torches. I got oil lamps and all that stuff to keep light in, battery operated stuff. So worst case scenario, we could keep warm. We'd have to sit by the fireplace, but we could keep warm. We could cook there, and we could pump water take water from the retention pond, boil it over the fire, and I'm going to get filtration system for like when you're going out and you're hiking and you're backpacking and people that are off-gridders or whatever, just to filter water from the streams and whatever, kind of purify that water coming out of that old pond. But worst case scenario, I told my wife we could do that. I might pick up freeze-dried stuff, just stuff like that. I'm not going to go crazy, some canned goods. I say to have enough to last you maybe 2 or 3 months, which sounds like quite a bit, but at 2 or 3 months, things could shut down for 2 or 3 months, and it could get scary. Am I afraid of dying? Not really. I mean, I'm 60. I've had some health scares. Like I said, just had a colonoscopy, so hopefully the doctors seem to think that everything was fine. A couple of polyps, not to get too personal, but they check those things, through the lab. So I'm waiting on the results, and hopefully they're good. But so. The point is I'm trying to make is I'm not really scared of death. We're all going to die. It's just a matter of if you can if you can withstand a small storm. Is basically what I'm getting at. So like with COVID, when it came in the first time, because I believe it's going to come again. I think we're going to get another pandemic. I really do. I hope we don't. I hope I'm wrong. But I think we're going to get another big pandemic that might be as bad or maybe even worse than the one we had. So, so like I said, if you got a little bit of supply setback and you're thinking logically and smart, you can wait, you can ride out the storm, like I said, for a little while till the stores and the supply chains kick back up. Ultimately, trying to survive something really massive is not going to happen with anybody. That's just the way it is. The thing I suggest with that, coming from my faith side, is you just wrap your trust in Jesus and God, right? Because that's where really you're going to be saved. And that's a whole different thing too, but that's where I stand on it. So anyway, thanks for joining me again today, guys. Just talking about 2024. Hopefully it's not bad, but in case things would go south, I said just grab a little things. I'm not saying go, tomorrow and just rob, the shelves and buy up a bunch of stuff like they did the pandemic. Don't do that. Just be smart. Just get a little extra, put a little extra away. Just think about things in case, we didn't have anything for a little while. Because right now things are fine, but it may not always be that way. So that's kind of on my notes there. And, and I cover like how much should you get, I don't know. That's up to you. I don't think you have to go crazy overboard, but, just have a few things in case, and, even if like a storm comes up, like I live in the Midwest of the United States of America, we get tornadoes, spring weather, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it could knock power out for a while, it could destroy things. So you need a little bit of a backup plan in case it's like a storm, right? That's it. So I'm going to kind of switch gears here. This is a funny story I heard too. So what's going on in Miami, Florida? Guys, comment below. What is happening in Miami, Florida? What is the deal? I just heard there was like 100 or 200 police cars. And I'm not sure exactly when this is. I'll have to research it. But I think it was like around New Year's. Might have been like New Year's Eve or something. So Miami dispatched like 200 like police officers, surrounded them all because they came to the conclusion there was a couple teenagers with sticks acting up. And that don't seem right. Plus they shut the airport down and they shut the grid down, 30% of the grid down for a while. That don't add up, guys. Come on. I mean, common sense tells you that doesn't add up. You don't need 200 police officers to surround them all. You don't need to shut down an airport. You don't need to shut down the grid, 30% of the power in Miami. That just doesn't happen when it's just a little teenage scuffle in the mall. That something's going on. So I heard this today from one of the podcasters I watch and I subscribe to. And I was like, wow, what's this all about? Didn't hear much about it. Supposedly, now, I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy guy totally. I have my thoughts about things in case you guys know me and see my past podcast. But supposedly, right, that some of the teenagers and some of the people in the mall saw 7 to 8 foot creatures walking around in the mall. Don't know. Aliens, what? Nephilim? I don't know. We'll take a short break and we'll come back and we'll finish talking about this. Thanks for joining me on the Johnny Allen 30-Minute Podcast. All right, welcome back, guys. I took my little break. So what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, we were talking about the Miami Aliens. That sounds like a new NBA team, right? So what really did happen down there? It's kind of strange. Like I said, you don't have 200 police officers and shutting down an airport and all these things that supposedly happen. I don't live in Miami, but I just heard about it. Those things, I saw the video of all the police officers. That was true, right? That doesn't happen with kids in a mall, just going after each other with sticks. There's something more to that. Now, I joked a little bit about it. I said, well, maybe that what they saw was just NBA players, man. I mean, because I'm like 5'6", 5'6.5" on a good day, right? And to me, NBA players are giants. Maybe it's a couple big NBA guys in there walking around. Maybe some of the Miami Heat or something walking around the mall. And they said, hey, there's aliens, man, big aliens. And if it wasn't Miami, and if it was truly aliens from outer space and they're 8 foot tall, man, they're going to draft those guys. They're going to want those guys to play basketball. So if I was the aliens and they don't want to play basketball, they better go hide somewhere. I don't know. Comment below. What do you think about that stuff? Wow. Don't know. It's weird, right? Weird. The world just keeps getting weirder and weirder. And I think that's why these preppers are coming out and doing these things. And kind of getting back to that thing again to sum it up. Like I said, I don't think we have to get crazy with being prepared in case something was to happen, natural or man-made disaster, right? We don't, we just got to be smart, logical. If you go to the store and you buy just a little bit more each time, you're gonna have enough to stock up for a while. And like some of these preppers say, if you buy the stuff and you don't end up needing it, well, at least you got some extra food. You can, you're eventually going to eat it, right, or take care of it, eat it, whatever, consume, whatever you're going to do with it. You're going to use it, okay? So you're not really throwing money away. If it's something dry-free product, freezed products or whatever, or it's shelf life's a long time or whatever, you're going to be fine with it. But it's good to be prepared. I talked to my wife. I said it might spend $1,000 just buying stuff to, like I said earlier, just getting stuff out of the, getting water out of the lake, worst case scenario, filter it, like I said, all those things, heating and cooking over the fire in the fire pit, and the fire in the stove, and the I'm trying to say the fireplace, and like they did years ago. And I got an outdoor cooking thing, and if you had enough to last for a couple months, that's good. 3 months maybe. Don't do like they did at the pandemic. We were ridiculous when the pandemic came in. It's like, what was the deal, like I said, with the toilet paper? It was just like everybody bombarded it, and it destroyed the shelves and just bombarded the stores and took everything out. Because people waited till the last minute. It's like, everything was status quo. They didn't expect that to happen, so they just went nuts. I don't understand the toilet paper thing. I still don't to this day why they went after toilet paper. But they did, and I remember that very well. And as far as the prepping thing goes, if you're stocked up enough to where you don't have to worry about it that much at all, because if something God forbid, does happen, and you need a little supply for a few weeks to get you by, you don't have to freak out that everybody at the store wait till the last minute, or they start freaking out and then the shelves are empty, and you didn't have enough time. They don't allow enough. By doing that, they don't allow the supply chain that's already hurting to be able to recover from that. So that's why you take just a little bit at a time. We need to share. We need to think of other people. Don't think of yourselves. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but I know here in America, and the pandemic proved it, they're really bad about it. Americans. Me first. Grab all the stuff up. It's just ridiculous, right? So I'll just kind of prepare to where if that was to happen, I don't have to worry about the toilet paper. I don't have to worry about this stuff. That's about it. I'm not going to be extreme. I'm not going to worry because, like I said, if anything gets really bad, there's nothing nobody's going to do about it anyway. You see these billionaires like, Zuckerberg and Gates and all these people we know that they're building these huge, so many millions of dollars bunkers and elaborate all that stuff. I mean, why? Even if you build a bunker like that, you're only going to survive, and all the money in the world, you're only going to survive for a while. If something was really bad, say nuclear or whatever, the fallout eventually is going to get you even in a bunker. So to me, you're just wasting your time. You may be buying a couple months, maybe a year, but that's about it. So if you want to be saved, and I'm coming from my faith side, believe in God, follow the Lord, follow Jesus Christ, you're going to be saved. Everybody's going to die eventually. There's no way you're going to get out of it. No one's going to get out of it. Just be prepared. Just make sure your soul's going to where it needs to go so you can go on, right? That's what my song's about that I'll link. Moving on after we leave this world. So with enough of that, I want to go back to change the subject up a little bit here. I was born in 1964. My wonderful mother, she's a trooper. She's still kicking it at almost 81 years old. She always gets me these little memories books, nostalgia books. Remember when? 1964. So that's when I was born. So just real quickly, we'll look back and see how things were in 1964 as compared now to 2024. So I got a timeline here. I'm just going to read this timeline off to you guys real quick. It's pretty interesting. So in January of 1964, the Rolling Stones go on tour with the Ronettes in 1964. You imagine that? Mick was a young guy back then. So was Keith Richards, pretty young. In February of 1964, the month I was born, the British invasion begins. And that's when the famous Beatles first landed at JFK Airport in New York. And everybody went crazy about the Beatles, especially the women. Okay, in March 1964, 2 men get life sentences for kidnapping Frank Sinatra Jr. I did not know that. Okay, in April 1964, the first, real quick on this one, we think of things like the driverless cars and stuff like that. We think that's really just far out technology. In April of 1964, they had the first driverless trains on the London Underground. Now, trains a little bit more, I can see where that might be a little bit more easier because it's running on a track anyway, and you just kind of let it go, right? But they did have, driverless trains back then. And in May 1964, the first basic program runs on a computer. So in 1964, the computer was, kind of coming to life, right? So to speak. That could have been a bit good or bad thing. I don't know yet. The jury's still out on that. I'm beginning to think it might have been a bad thing. Anyway, June of 1964, the Great Canadian Flag debate begins in the House of Commons when the Prime Minister of Canada, Lester Pearson, proposes a new design. So, things were happening politically back then, too. They wanted to change the flag in Canada, right? They wanted to change the flag. Okay, July of 1964, NASA is another technology that we think is only recent. No, NASA tested its first successful electric rocket engine back in 1964. So we're thinking like all this electric stuff's great now, electric cars, blah, 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 electric this, electric that. NASA in 1964 was testing an electric rocket engine. Pretty incredible. In August of 1964, actress Annie Bancroft, and comedian Mel Brooks wed. Well, I don't know why that made it on here, but, okay, whatever, cool. September of 1964, Walt Disney is awarded the Medal of Freedom at the White House. A big, big deal. Now, Walt Disney, and when I say Walt Disney, I'm talking about Walt, the one that created Mickey Mouse, the one that created the Disney amusement and Disney complex, that we know of today, the corporation. He was presented that at the White House, the Freedom, the Medal of Freedom. And the thing is, like, speaking of Walt Disney, he'd be rolling over in his grave today, right? People had seen how Disney's going today. With all the woke stuff in Disney, Walt would be rolling over in his grave. That's another podcast. Okay, in October of 1964, San Francisco cable cars are declared the first moving national landmark. So in 1964, they had cable cars, and they were a national landmark back then. Now in San Francisco, the national landmark is homeless people and drug addicts on the street. See how things have changed? So, yeah, pretty amazing, isn't it? Sad, but amazing. Okay, in November of 1964, the world's largest suspension bridge in New York City opened. Okay, that's cool. Here's one, last one in December of 1964. They had political correctness back then, almost 60 years ago, guys. So in December of 1964, the Houston Colt 45s, which is a gun, they had to change their name, I'm assuming, to the Astros. So the Houston Astros, back in 1964, were the Colt 45s. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So when Washington had to change their name because of the wokeness and all that good stuff, they were doing that back in 1964 too. So some of these things, are not new. Been happening for a while. Another thing I observed with this little booklet about 1964 nostalgia booklet, remember when, look back, is they have the ads from the day in here. Now I can't really show you all these, or I won't right now. We might do that in a later podcast. But something interesting I noticed, and this will be a future podcast I'm going to do. All the ads in 1964, I'm looking through it right here, guys, just with my eyes. Almost every single ad, and before I get into this, I just want to tell everybody right now, I have never been a racist person. I'm not a racist person. I get along with everybody. I don't care what color they are, what sex they are, what they associate with. Anybody, right? I don't care, financial status, whatever. I'm friends with everybody. As long as they're cool with me, I'm cool with them. That's how I live. That's how I roll. I've always been that way, But what I'm getting to is like back in 1964, how times have changed, is I'm looking at almost 90%, if not 100%. I would say, well, 99.8% of the ads in here all feature Caucasian people, and mostly in a lot of female Caucasian people in 1964. Now, for better or for worse or whatever, any opinion, we'll talk about that later. That's not the way it is today. To set up my next podcast in the future, we go to extremes in society. We do extremes. We don't do anything gradual. We don't try to balance things out. We go xing or zhang, that's how we do things. So 1964, like I said, most of the ads and stuff feature Caucasian people. It's not that way today. And I'll prove it by actually in real time watching the TV with my cell phone. You guys will watch with me. We will actually do a survey and an actual accurate count in real time at how many folks, what type of people are being featured today in ads and television shows versus 1964. I think you'll be astonished. I think things should be a balance. I think that every person needs to be represented, period. And that will lead up to the next podcast. We'll talk about that. Fairness is great. When things aren't fair, that's when you have a lot of chaos, a lot of jealousy, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of envy. Just bad things happen when things are not fairly set up in a society. That goes with wars and everything. All the stuff that's happening right now. I'm going to end on, just a kind of a lighter note. I hope that 2024 is good. I hope we don't have to prep if you are a prepper. If you are a prepper, I should say, hopefully you won't have to use any of that stuff that you prepped for. But the world with AI and everything going on, things are changing and changing pretty rapidly. So we need to keep an eye on it. That's all I got to say. But at the end of the day, if you got faith and if you got faith, we're all going to die eventually, right? Everybody's going to die. There's no getting out of it. Hopefully you'll live to be 108, but most people don't. Oh, I was going to say in here too, they said the life expectancy back in 1964 real quick was 69.7 years, which is only 9 years older than I am right now. So we are living longer for the most part, but what I'm getting at is everybody's going to die, right? Getting back to what I'm saying. So there's no getting out of it. So when you do die, you want to make sure that you are, in my opinion, my faith is to be safe, because I think we go on. That's what my song's about. After we leave this world, we move on. And we want to make sure we're moving on to a better place, if you got what I'm saying. So have faith that you're going to be saved. It's not going to be the end, and you're going to move on to better places, right? So that's where I'm going to end the podcast today, guys. Thanks for joining me on Rumble. I'm excited about the new platform. I feel like I can exercise my First Amendment right a little bit more. YouTube's been good and stuff, but the algorithms on YouTube are like this. And, it's just crazy out there. And they censor stuff a little bit more, and you just feel like you can't really be you. So I'm just excited about stretching it out on another platform, Rumble. We'll see how that goes. And but welcome to my Rumble. Stay in my Rumble podcast, my Rumble channel. And, we'll just see how things go. I'll still continue to do the podcast on Facebook and YouTube as well, and Spotify and all that stuff. Anyway, like I say every week, you guys, the good Lord willing, I'll see you next week, and I'll try to keep my podcast going every week, because I think we got stuff to talk about and share. And like I said, anything I talked about today, feel free to comment, or if you just want to hit a like or subscribe, especially on the Rumble now, the new one, however that works now. I'm still figuring it out. Just, I always appreciate the love. Y'all take care, and I'll catch you on the next one. You have discovered, through the expansion of the internet world, I am Johnny Allen, and this is the Johnny Allen 30-Minute Podcast.